All right. Well, the time is now 5:32. I would like, being the fact that we have a quorum, I'd like to call our policy committee meeting into session. Today is April 7th. The time is now 5:33, and I'm seeking a motion for a call to order.
Chair, I vote that we call the April 7th meeting to order at 5:33.
All right. I second. So with that being said, let's try to let's go ahead and do roll call. So President Briggs.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 2-0. Let's take a look at the.
Can I interrupt for a second, Mr. Watson?
Yes, sir.
Our Carla is sitting there saying she can't hear anyone.
Okay.
But she has to check the volume on her phone.
Working on it. Let's see, volume on your phone.
Dr. Garrity is actually still with us. She will.
And she's probably working on it. So I will let's see. Okay. So Ms. Garrity is going to work with her on that. I'm asking to seek a motion for the adoption of the agenda as printed.
I move that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Okay. I second. I'll call for a vote. President Briggs.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 2-0. The agenda has been adopted.
May I interrupt for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney Fields Johnson, maybe if you could go out and come back in, because I don't see your mic available for people that are on there, or either call in from your. I'm not seeing that your mic is even optional. Down in the lower left, do you have headsets or do you have a mic? If you have the headsets, click the headsets, because that's how you'll join the video audio that way.
She's gonna try going out and coming back in.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
So
where we have Director Chair Watchery.
Yes. Still, I'm gonna add. I wanted to check and see if you had the availability to look at the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes, I received the minutes today and have had the opportunity to review them. At this point, I have no corrections to the minutes.
Okay. All right. Seeking a motion then.
Chair, I move that we adopt the, I don't have the meeting minutes pulled up in front of me, the minutes from our last meeting. What was the date of that? March
3rd, 2020 committee meeting. Yep.
Yes, the March 3rd, 2020 meeting minutes.
All right. Second, no discussion. President Briggs.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's 2-0. Moving on to policy reviews. So at this point in time, Carla, are you able to, is your mic working? Can you hear us?
We're connecting to audio now.
Okay. All right. Attorney Fields Johnson, hi. Welcome back. We are to the aspect of policy reviews. I was going to ask if you could possibly, Vice President Reagan, thank you for joining us. When it comes to our policy review, can you please go over the MSBA revisions and that you've presented to the committee members?
Sure. You want me to go through all of the policies?
I mean, yeah, if you can. I mean, sorry, yeah.
Okay, so you received, I'll do them kind of in groups, and I'll use the MSBA policy overview sheet that MSBA provided. So policies BBBAF2, BBE, which is school board elections, BBE, which is school board vacancies, BBE AF1, which is also school board vacancies that apply to vacated board positions, and BHA, board training and development. MSBA amended all of these to reflect changes brought about by House Bill 604, which adds 2.5 hours of required initial training for new board members and an additional hour of refresher training for each additional year of any term of office. So the policies were updated to reflect those changes from the House bill. The addition of 2.5 hours of initial training and 1 hour of refresher training for existing directors. And questions on those?
I just have one question. I don't have the policy because I pulled up in front of me. Can you state the date in which that policy was submitted for revision and recommendation to the school district?
Let me see here. Yeah. So all of them were, I can give you background on it. Give me a second. I'm gonna have to go into my email.
I just want to make sure I haven't, I know I read something about it. I just want to make sure that I have the most recent revision.
Sure. Okay, they were provided to me by MSBA on February the 18th. I sent them to Dr. Cargile just to give you background, and Dr. Cargile and I met and discussed them, and then they went to the policy committee for the first time. Let's see here. I believe they were sent to Director Watry at the same time that I sent them to Dr. Cargile on February the 20th, along with you, President Briggs. And then they went to the full policy committee before your last, or right after your last meeting. Let's see here. On March the 3rd, they were sent to the policy committee because at your last meeting, if you'll recall, I asked that you put them on your agenda for next month so that you all would have a month to review them. So they went out to you on March the 3rd.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I had the March 3rd day. I didn't want to assume anything, but thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. I was trying to get myself back or get so that I could see.
Thank you for leaving it up so people can see what it actually reads. So in the time in which you were looking, it was able to kind of go over it and see, especially the board training and development that's already presented. Thank you, Ms. Payton.
Okay.
My pleasure.
And I'm sorry, did I mess with your screen, Ms. Payton?
No, do you want me to turn over the share to you?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
If you want to put putting them up is fine. The next one is policy DEA, revenues from tax sources. So there were two revenue generating statutes that were added to the Missouri statutes. One deals with taxes on financial institutions, and the second one deals with telephone companies. This prompted MSBA to revise their policies. And so during that time, they took the opportunity to emphasize the board and superintendent's responsibilities regarding district revenues. With regard to these changes to this policy, none of them are required by law. They are what's recommended by MSBA, and I can pull up DEA.
Yes, I don't have BBA.
No, DEA.
Oh, DEA. Thank
Yes.
you.
Sorry. Is it in your list?
Let me see.
There it is.
Okay, let me make the screen so that I can see it. Okay. See, does it scroll down, Ms. Payton? So that I can see where the changes are.
There we go.
Okay. So this first section just deals with making clearer, I guess, the responsibilities of the board and the superintendent with regard to finances and district revenue, and what the superintendent's role is with regard to maximizing district revenue.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down further, okay. No, scroll back up, I'm sorry. Okay. So you'll see that what they've done is replace all the existing language in that policy with the first few paragraphs that are in yellow on the second page. So, I mean, this isn't, they didn't make changes that were any changes in the law, which is why they're not required by law to, these changes aren't required by law. It's just the MSBA's rewrite of that policy. So, there wasn't anything in it that was problematic from my perspective in terms of adopting it. But it's not something that you all are required to do.
I think based on what I'm looking at and looking at the differences from the verbiage that was originally there to the verbiage that in which it's kind of condensed what needed to be said and is a little bit more clear. Although it's not obligated by law to change, I do feel that it provides a little bit more clear-cut understanding for board members and superintendents alike. So, as well as any layperson who comes and just reads our policy, based on where the policy stands now, it looks like this is a little bit more clear.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion regarding this policy?
No, not at this point.
All right, so the next set of policies, DF, DJF, DJF, AF3, FED, and FEF are all purchasing contracts and, purchasing policies, and they are all being updated to reflect the change in the law that requires school districts to advertise and bid construction projects that exceed $50,000. The previous threshold, the MSBA says was $15,000, but I actually think the previous threshold was $25,000.
Yeah, it says it in the policy.
Yeah, okay, it does. So it's purchases that are not previously included in board-approved budgets that may exceed $50,000 must have prior board approval unless the policy's emergency provisions are applicable. So that's a significant change, and that's a change that will impact our bond biddings, the construction work for the bonds. So it's increasing the limits that require board approval. So you all are not going to have to approve policies unless they, contracts unless they exceed $50,000 for construction contracts.
In your legal opinion, what are the advantages and disadvantages of that increase?
Well, what it does is it provides the staff the ability to operate more without having to get board approval. I don't know how much discretion you all have in this policy because it is a change in the law. The policy has been changed because there's been a change in the law. Okay. And so
there's really nothing. It is what it is, per se.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And this is one that I think, because it's going to, I know Mr. Weekly is probably going to start working with the construction manager at risk to start, relatively soon we'll start dealing with bidding on work. And so getting this one approved sooner rather than later is probably a good idea.
Okay.
Can I?
But only problem I have with that policy, Fields Johnson, is due to our unstable fund balance. I wouldn't say unstable, but we are still trying to stabilize our fund balance. It makes me feel a little bit, I want to proceed with some caution. It would be different if our fund balance was at the state recommendation of 21%. But because we're working towards getting that fund balance, I would like a little bit more discussion on this policy with the full board.
Thank you, President. Me too.
And that's fine. And what I can do is, once we go through these today, it'll be up to this committee to make the decision as to whether or not you want to pass these proposed changes to the full board for a first read. And so if you want to pull this particular policy out and have discussion about that, that's certainly appropriate. That would allow me the opportunity to take questions back to MSBA on this proposed change, and I can have answers for you. So if there are specific questions on this one that you want to get to me, you can either give them to me now or you can feel free to send them to me.
Chair Watry.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we pull this to allow some further discussion, because I do already have a couple of questions ready for the that will need to be moved to the finance committee. I think this is one of those policies that warrant the attention of the finance committee as well, because many of those bids will either not go to the finance committee based on the new changes, but I believe that the finance committee should have an opportunity to weigh in on this at a minimum.
Oh yeah. I
second that.
Okay. Within discussion for this motion, I wanted to add that Ms. Johnson did say that this is based on law. So even with our discussion, it's one of those things where we can kind of discuss it, but we're going to discuss how we address it or how we're going to adhere to it, rather than whether we kind of take on the recommendation or not. That this is kind of tied into law. But I want to make the committee aware of that.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Hold on, Vice President Reagan. I understand the law, but you move 6 or 7 contracts through with a $50,000 bond at a $50,000 rate, and the board may or may not be aware of the impact it could have on that fund balance. I'm stating that for the record as of today, and I know we're in the discussion, but it warrants the attention of at least the minimum of the finance committee with further discussion.
I agree. I do feel that the finance committee, as well as the full board, needs to be aware of this change and how we're going to address it, and kind of game plan how we're going to when it comes to the bond as well as future bids. I would agree with that. So with is there any more discussion? I'm sorry, I don't want to cut anybody off.
Could I say something?
Yes, sir. Please do.
I just want to point, there's a couple of more AP ones that go with DJF and FEF that are right below that. And one of them talks a little bit more about the fact that, the prevailing wage no longer applies to projects less than 75,000, and the construction projects under 50,000 are no longer subject to the sealed bid requirement. I think that's a big part of that as well.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And so my thought was, if you all want to, I was going to pull all of those, including the ones that Dr. Skinner just referenced, have further discussion with MSBA legal on it, and be prepared for you all to have an open discussion about all of those policies. Let's see here. And I am referring to DJF, DJFA, F3, FED, FEF, DJF, AP1, EF, I'm sorry, FEF, AP1.
All right. Okay.
So if,
go ahead.
I think you had a motion on the floor to pull those.
I was going to ask that that who made the motion make the amendments of said policies, being the fact it's more than one.
Okay. I didn't write those down, Chair Watcher. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I move that we pull the policies that we're discussing, all of them, for further discussion regarding the states, the MSBA recommendation for the procurement with that logs. I don't know.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion's been made and second. Is there any further discussion?
If I could, Ms. Payton, for purposes of the minutes, did you get the ones that I was referring to?
I did not, but I can listen to the video.
Okay, so the motion would include pulling those policies from the list of MSBA proposed policies for further discussion with the full board.
And the finance committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Correct. So with it second and motioned, and if there's no further discussion, with the amendments being made, call it to vote.
Yes. Aye.
Vice President Reagan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 3-0. Motion's carried. Ms. Johnson, can you please continue? Was that the gist of the policies that were under revision?
No, there are several more. So the next one on the list is DJFA, which relates to federal programs and projects. MSBA made some small changes to that one that are just consistent with the language in the federal statutes. So on the second page, I'm sorry, of the policy, toward the end, they add the word geographical. So pursuant to federal law, the district will not use local or state geographical purchasing preferences when purchasing goods or services. When making purchases with federal funds, the district will, and it lists all the different things. And that change is just a change that's consistent with what the federal statute actually says. It says that you won't use state geographical purchasing preferences rather than just state or local purchasing preferences. It's not changing substantively what's occurring. It's just because the numbers 1 through 4 that start right below that are the requirements that you all are supposed to use when making purchases with federal funds. So that change is, it's an important change in the sense that it aligns it with the language in the statute, but it's not substantively changing what you all are doing.
Okay, I move that we accept the recommendations of MSBA for this policy.
Could I ask for with your motion, can I ask for a possible amendment that this be also carried to the Finance Committee before shared with the full board?
And if you guys prefer, if you want to not make motions on each one of these, but collectively do that at the end in terms of where if your intent is to move all of these, well, let me take that back. I guess your intent is to move some of them.
Referring to finance, like the ones
Yeah.
that refer to finance and the ones refer to like the
Okay.
Education Committee.
Got it.
So with that motion that you made, President Briggs, if the amendment with and Carla, we can let you continue if there's more. If the president wants to kind of more or less.
Yeah, I'll follow. Yeah, that's fine. I'll follow. If there's more, we can do it all in one sweep. If that's
okay.
If there's more that relate to the finance pieces.
Yeah, and there are.
Okay.
At least there's one more.
Okay.
That I see so far. Policy FEF, construction contracts, bidding and awards. And this, like a couple of the ones that we looked at a few minutes ago, deal with changes to the prevailing wage law. And it addresses the fact that the prevailing wage law no longer applies to projects less than $75,000. And so I would suggest that you pull that one with the other ones here with finance and take all of those to the Finance Committee for some discussion.
All right. Carla, do you mind? I can't because you're moving. I don't have access to your screen. I see this is policy FEF. Is it possible to send me the policy letters so that I can, when I state my motion, I can include those numbers?
Yep.
I don't remember the last one because it came and gone so quickly.
Yeah, the one before that was DJFA.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me forward you.
Yeah, so I can make a clean motion.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward you a previously sent email, President Briggs, and on it are several documents, but there's a Word document that's called, I just sent it, MSBA 2019C Policy Update Overview.
Okay.
All right. When you were able to make your motion, I'll look for a second and we'll.
What was the first one? What was the one before the FEF one?
It was DJFA.
Uh-huh. FEF.
Okay, President Briggs, are you working on a motion? There's something you
I'm only I just need to make a motion on those two policies, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I move that we move policy FEF and policy DJFA on to the Finance Committee and full board for further review.
I second it.
Okay, motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? No? All right, we will call the roll. President Briggs,
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye, motion carries. Moving on.
Okay. The next policy, actually the next couple of policies, GB LB and GBLB AF2, which is the administrative procedure that goes with it, references it's modified to include the additional requirement for districts to share information about former employees and allegations of sexual misconduct with students, required pursuant to RSMO 162.068. So this is a change that allows districts to tell other districts if a district is contemplating hiring an employee that we let go due to allegations of sexual misconduct. What it will do is it's going to require hearings on our district's behalf. So whenever we're, it's going to heighten the due process requirement for our district, or any district that's letting go an employee. Director Watcher, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does that sound to you, attorney?
I think it's a move in the right direction. I think that districts want to know, and I'm trying to find the actual policy. Want to know whether or not they're bringing on employees that have had that issue in a previous district.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm all on that one because you know, I, I, I think we should adopt the recommendation of MSBA on this policy GBLE, policy GBLE2.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. And so, that's also going to require some further consideration from me when we're dealing with, settlements of possible lawsuits and release of information. And so, but I do think that it's important that when you're receiving references from other districts, that you're allowed to now, those districts are required actually to tell you if you're bringing on somebody who was let go for that reason.
Yeah,
I
no,
agree with that too. I think it's important, especially when we're dealing with people today, and especially when we're dealing with our children. I wouldn't want someone who's been around children already that fired from another place and then teaching, and then that, like you said, Mrs. Johnson, that wouldn't look right.
with that being said, Chair seeking a motion.
I think there's a motion and a second. I read on the floor. It was additional discussion.
So this additional discussion will go to the full board. Am I correct?
No. I think we can go ahead and accept it if it's at the pleasure of the chair. We can go ahead and accept the recommendations from MSBA.
Okay. We'll accept the recommendation, but it'll have to go to the full board for a vote. That's what I meant. So,
Right. So this will be one of the ones that goes to the full board for first reading.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So is there a second to this motion?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All righty. Then we'll call the roll. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 3-0. All right, moving along.
Director Watcher, I need to step away for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
The next set of policies, GBEBC, and then what is this? IICC AP1, all deal with volunteers and criminal background checks. And so the change is that volunteers who will be alone with students or have access to student records undergo the same background checks as teachers and other district employees. And I am not sure, Dr. Skinner, you may be able to answer this. Do volunteers currently have the same background checks as teachers and other district employees?
No, they
Okay.
have a different background check that runs through the Raptor system. The one for teachers is a little bit more thorough and goes through HR.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on thorough?
I believe.
FBI.
Yeah, it goes like international, or not international, but United States. It's not just local. I think the Raptor that we have with, and again, I'm not 100%, but I don't believe it goes as far spread. I think the Raptor is more for the United States, and it looks for certain offenses, where I think the background check that the teachers go through looks for a wider variety of offenses.
See, I can't see this being a disadvantage to our district in ensuring that we're covering our bases. So, yeah.
Now, can I ask?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What was the one that we took as board members? Is that the same as the teachers and or is that a different one from the volunteers?
That's when the volunteers did. That's with the Raptor system.
The board went ahead and took the $46 one.
They did. They did the.
Yeah,
they
the
did
board,
one?
the board members that wanted access to the schools
Okay.
took the same background check that we took,
As the teachers.
and as employees.
Okay.
So am I clear? Would you say that all of our board is currently taking the 47, assuming?
Only the ones that wanted access to the schools. Not every board director wanted access to the schools without being, of course, every board director has the ability to go to a school to visit.
Right.
Some wanted to use their badges and have access without going through the principal or being buzzed in. So all of those who wanted that privilege went through the background check. Plus their badges have more access than the board directors that chose not to have that level of access. But anyone that wanted that level of access to be able to go to the schools and buzz themselves in went through the background check.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a cost issue with what we do with Raptor versus what we do with teachers. That's something we probably need to check with Casey.
Well, because I do know that with the hiring, the $40 is often covered by the candidate who is for the candidate of employment, not necessarily the district covering their background checks. Whereas I know that it might be different for board members in the sense that board members may have had that if they wanted access, may have had the district pay for that. But that's neither here or there for me. The policy within itself I think that having a universal background check that encompasses everyone seems to be the most beneficial to be across the board. Those who have access to kids should have the most thorough background check to ensure that they don't cause any harm or no harm comes to kids. So I would agree with that. I would agree with this policy.
Yeah, I do too. So I would like to make a motion that we accept policy. I can't see the policy.
GBEBC
And IICC and IICC-AP1.
Yes, ma'am. Because I can't see them. So I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we accept all three of them with the help of the attorney that's on the phone with us today.
All right.
I second.
All right. I see a second. Is there any further discussion? All right. With no further discussion, I'll call the roll. And with President Briggs,
Aye.
Vice President Reagan,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 3-0. Motion carries.
The next policy is policy GCD, professional staff recruiting and hiring. So this is a change that requires that before offering employment to any teacher who was previously employed by a Missouri school district or charter school, that the school district contact DESE to determine the school district and charter school previously, school districts and charter schools that previously employed the teacher and solicit performance information from the most recent district. So that's the most significant change in this policy, is that now before we hire an employee who's coming from another Missouri school district or charter school, that we have to contact DESE first and get performance information on that employee or that potential employee. The change also clarifies that employee reassignments should change the compensation, benefits, or contract of an employee must be approved by the board. And that change is not the result of the new law, but it's based upon concerns shared with MSBA that reassignment and transfers may be used to bypass the board's role in hiring. So that's a section that's not a required change, but it's a recommended change by MSBA. And then they also removed the language specific to hiring retirees under the critical shortage exception and replaced it with more general language about hiring retirees who continue to draw retirement. The critical shortage exception is not the only option for teachers to work after retirement, but it is not feasible to list all the rules regarding work after retirement. So the board simply needs to make it clear that the district will follow the law when hiring retirees. So that portion is just designed to tighten up that language and make sure that there aren't loopholes in language. But the most significant change to it is the requirement that before offering a potential employee a contract with the district, we have to contact DESE and get performance information on that potential employee's, from that potential employee's former state employers, I'm sorry.
In your legal opinion, do you see an issue with this? I don't really see an issue.
I don't.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So if let's see, President Reagan's phone will probably go out here in a second, so he'll probably have to.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. Well, if with there being no discrepancies, is there a motion or any further discussion, or do we need a motion, a second, then discussion?
I make a motion that we accept policy GCD.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
All right. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right. Moving on.
The next couple of policies, GCI and GDI, both deal with transfers, staff assignments and transfers. So GCI deals with professional staff assignments and GDI deals with support staff assignments. And the changes are designed to clarify the district's ability to transfer staff when it best serves the district. So, you know, there wasn't any change to this that was new. It's just an attempt to clarify. Well, I guess it is new. It addresses reassignments. So it ensures that the district has the ability to reassign employees if it's in the best interest of the district. So under a current employee's contract, that employee can be reassigned to a different position within the district at the district's discretion.
So it's saying board approval is required when a reassignment results in a change to the employee's compensation, benefits, or contract. Employee from one position or another at the request of the employee. District initiated movement of employee from one position to or position for another. Is there any questions or any discussion from fellow committee members?
No.
Mr. Reagan?
Nope. I don't have anything on this.
Okay. All right. Well then, if there's no discrepancies, chair is seeking a motion.
I can't see that policy number again. Can you state that policy number one more time for me?
Yes, it's GCI and GDI.
I move that we take the recommendation of GCI, DCI. Move that we approve that.
I second.
Okay. The motion's been made and second. Is there any further discussion? With your silence, I will go ahead and call roll. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right, moving forward.
All right, the next set of policies, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. GCPB, GCPD, GCPE, GDPB, GDPD, and GDPE. And all of these policies deal with either resignation, suspension, or termination of either a professional staff member or a support staff member, or non-renewal and termination of support staff members. These policies are designed to address the change in the law that requires sharing of information about employees who leave a district as a result of sexual misconduct with a student or allegations of such conduct. And so because that information is being shared now amongst districts, as a result, MSBA has added language about offering and providing due process to employees who leave the district under such circumstances. So, you know, because we're no longer allowed to keep that information silent as part of a separation agreement, a due process hearing is now going to be afforded to any teacher who leaves the district either through resignation, suspension, or termination as a result of allegations of sexual misconduct with students, or, you know, a determination that there was sexual misconduct with a student.
With that being said, is there anything about, like, say for instance, they leave real early and we recover some money or anything? Is that the same ones with these cons? With this one right here, Mrs. Johnson, Attorney Johnson?
No, I'm not sure what you mean when you say recover money, but these are all ones that deal strictly with employees that leave the district because of allegations of sexual misconduct with a student.
But what I'm saying is, say for instance, you know how we let teachers go, and we have to, if they put in and say, hey, we are leaving based on I'm sick or something, we used to not penalize them. Couldn't we attach that to someone, say for instance, if they were let go for that reasoning, and also recoup that stipend or whatever it is that's included in the teacher's thing? I don't know what it's called. I know what I'm talking about, but I don't think I'm wording it right.
So the breaking of their contract, you mean?
Right, that one.
Oh, would we be able to recoup the
Three.
money that's,
I think it's there's a compensation that has to be made in order for a teacher or someone who's a contracted employee to break their contract. I think
right?
Referring to.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that, Vice President Reagan. I'm not sure that one would have anything to do with the other. I'd have to look at that policy. I know the policy you're referring to, but I'd have to look at the language on that.
Here, my question may be his. I'm not sure, and maybe I can clean it up a little bit more. So, with the results in the policy being the result of sexual misconduct with a student or allegations of such, that if we were to terminate or suspend, that would be considered a breach of contract, and they would have to pay that stipend. Correct?
There you go, Mr. Watcher.
Yeah, I understand. I understood his question, and I understand it. I understand what you're asking, and I don't have the answer to that question. So
okay.
I would need to look at that policy. I'm not sure that I think if the employee resigns, I think that's when that policy becomes applicable, not when they're terminated, but I'm not positive about that. So I need to look at it.
Okay. Because even with an employee being, I mean, if an employee is terminated and it's based on their breach of contract. I guess, I mean, not even looking at this is more, I guess, becomes more of a general question. If an employee is subject to termination based on the breach of contract in which they did, would they have to pay that? If they don't,
Right.
then it would kind of apply for this situation as well.
I think your assessment's exactly right, Director Watry, and I'm not sure of the answer to that question. So
Okay.
I think it would apply the same way if
Right.
they're terminated for anything. The question is, does it apply? And I just don't know the answer to the question, but I can get the answer to the question for you.
Could Attorney Johnson, could the board amend that into that?
That's another really good question. Let me look at the policy itself and see what the policy says. The policy, not these policies, but the policy that deals with the repayment for breaking your contract early. Let me look at that and see what it says, and I'll be able to address that question as well.
Because there's a lot of and I appreciate you taking the time to kind of look into that, because there is a lot of variables that take in place to that. And I don't want to discourage any of our staff from feeling that even if it's just not a good fit in our district, that they're terminated and then they have to pay this $3,000 for just because they were terminated rather than it was just not a good fit. Understandably so. With the sexual misconduct, that's more egregious so yes, if you could just if I don't know if we really need to table this one, or if you could just kind of get us if we need to make any action on this one until we have those answers. I don't see how that would necessarily interfere with the policy itself, but I'll leave it to my committee members to make that decision, whether they choose to make a motion or not.
I recommend that we just go ahead and take a recommendation to table it.
Okay. Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All right. There's a motion to table this this policy upon. Is there a time frame?
Our next meeting will be fine.
Okay. Motion to table these policies GCB, GCPB, GCPB, GCPB. I'm making it all right now. GCPE. With the second from Vice President Reagan, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? All right. President Briggs?
Aye.
Vice President Reagan?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. Okay. Moving ahead.
Okay, the next change is policy IC, academic calendar. And this change is just to make policy the fact that no school in Missouri is going to begin earlier than 14 days prior to the first Monday in September. So academic calendars will be adjusted to address that.
Okay.
And that's a statewide change.
I move that we take the recommendation of the state that no school starts 14 days before September.
Is there a second? Pretty sure I heard a very digitalized second. So, okay, I hear you. With that, is there any discussion? All right. President Briggs?
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right, moving along.
All right, so the next policy is IGAEB, sexual health instruction. And so they've done a couple of things. One is just change the title of the policy from teaching about human sexuality to sexual health instruction, with the thought that it just more accurately reflects the purpose of the policy. They've also added the new requirement that school districts provide instruction to students on identifying, reporting, and dealing with sexual abuse. So the policy changes reflect that that instruction is going to be provided. It also provides a notice and opt-out section for parents and guardians to opt out for their students for that education. And then it kind of at the end talks about what the sexual abuse training portion of this will include. That the district will provide trauma-informed, developmentally appropriate training to students in grades 6 through 12 regarding sexual abuse, including but not limited to instruction on how to recognize sexual abuse, how to report an incident of sexual abuse, how to obtain assistance and intervention, and resources for students affected by sexual abuse.
This is amazing. I'm glad that we have this. I'm glad that they made the revisions to this policy to ensure that the people know how to report. And
Yeah,
that it's
good change.
All right, I move if Director White, you like a motion on this?
Yes, I would.
I move that we accept the recommendation of, can you remind me of the policy number again, Carla?
IGAEB.
Yes.
I move that we accept IGABE.
EB. Gotcha though. Is there a second?
I second
Okay.
IGA.
Is there any discussion? Okay. All right. President Briggs?
Aye.
Vice President Reagan? Vice President Reagan, are you still there? Vice President, you there?
You know what? I don't see anybody but the three of us.
No, I'm here. I see all y'all. I see everybody.
Well, I see you, President Briggs, but I don't see anybody but Director Walker, President Briggs, and myself.
Oh yeah, there's more people. There's 12 participants, but I see.
Oh, I see him now. Okay, I'm sorry.
Version of him. Vice President Reagan, can you hear me?
You can second it, Watchery.
I am. I'm going to. So I'll go ahead and second it. And what I'll do is I'll try to give him an opportunity. If there's no discussion, President Briggs.
Aye.
Let's see. Vice President Reagan.
He looks like he's on mute.
He looks like he's frozen. Okay, and there he went. So I will, chair votes aye, and currently there's 2 members, which makes a quorum. So we'll go ahead and do it 2-0 until he is able to come back. The motion does carry by majority, even if he does come back and decides that he wants.
Carl, how many more of these policies do we have? My phone's about to break.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 more sections of policies to cover.
Okay, I got like 3%, so, okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a charger.
Okay, the next one is IKF, graduation requirements. MSBA has added the option for students to use a computer science course to meet a math, science, or practical arts requirement as permitted by state law. The district is required to inform the student that some higher education institutions will not accept this substitution. So if you look at the policy, that's what the revision is. The district will waive the requirement. Oh, and it also waives the requirement to pass a civics examination when recommended by the student's IEP team. So it's for a student on an IEP. And then the next, what I just summarized is what's in the new paragraph number 6. And that's consistent with Missouri law.
Okay.
Okay.
Seeking a motion.
I move that we accept, I can't see your screen anymore, Carl. Ms. Johnson.
Okay.
I can't see the screen to accept the policy.
It's, can you see it? It's Miss Payton's. I don't have control of the screen.
Oh, I see it now. I move that we accept policy IKF.
All right. I second. Any further discussion, President Briggs? No? Okay. All right, President Briggs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 2-0.
The next one is JEC, and I don't see that. I'm trying to find that on the list of policies that was included. Okay, there it is. So this one deals with school admissions, and it was revised to include the option for military families to enroll remotely when moving to Missouri. And in addition, MSBA made changes based on questions and comments from school districts pertaining to custody disputes, the using of social security numbers and proof of age. So let me see, I don't remember this, so I need to look at this again. Parent guide to provide documentation of the student's age or purpose of determining whether the student satisfies. Okay, so in addition to the registration information for military families, under residency, okay, so under immunization, it removes the fact that students who transfer to a district from another district will be placed in accordance with board policy. I'm not sure why that language was removed. Transfer to the district from another district will be placed in accordance with board policy. I'm not sure why that language was removed. So I may have to get an answer to that question. Residency and eligibility to enroll. For admission into the district, students must reside in the district or otherwise be entitled to enrollment in accordance with law and policy. Okay, I see why. JECA. So they've removed that sentence before and inserted specific language about residency and eligibility to enroll. And then proof of age. They've added a section that addresses the need for parents to provide documentation of the student's age for purpose of determining whether the student satisfies state entrance age requirements. Such documentation may include, but is not limited to, a birth certificate, immunization records, a baptism certificate, any government issued ID, or an affidavit sworn by a parent or guardian in the presence of a district official. So they're requiring proof of age, and in general, students between the ages of 5 and 21 years old who do not have high school diploma may attend a district's K-12 program. Any senior qualifying for graduation at the end of a school semester and attending age 21 during the course of the semester may complete that particular semester tuition free. So this is making specific the ages of students eligible to attend any K through 12 program, and allows for a student that reaches the age of 21 during the course of a senior year to complete that year and graduate and complete that year tuition free.
Okay.
And then special education entrance ages are 3 to 21. And that's consistent with federal law.
Okay.
Okay, and then the Social Security and Social Security numbers and documentation section that's at the end of that policy. The district will not require the disclosure of Social Security numbers as a condition of registration purposes, but may request that a parent or guardian provide a student's Social Security number if the district explains in writing how the district will use the information, and such disclosure is voluntary. And then in terms of documentation, the district seeks to provide a safe learning environment for students and will work with both parents and guardians to meet the students' educational needs. However, the district will not mediate disputes between parents and guardians or enforce or monitor visitation arrangements and parenting plans. The district may request court orders or documentation of custody for the limited purposes of verifying who the legal parents and guardians are. So, you know, I think this is addressing problems that districts have had with dealing with custody agreements. And so it's taking that responsibility, making sure that it's clear that the district doesn't have a responsibility to mediate disputes.
Okay.
So I did not see anything that was problematic in any of these changes.
Okay, well then I'll go ahead and make a motion then for JEC. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations from MSBA for policy JEC.
And I will second with asking if there's any discussion.
Is this Carmita?
Yeah. I'm back, y'all.
Oh, okay, there you are. So a motion's just been put on the floor and I second it. It's in regards to the current policy that kind of addresses documentation for enrollment, as well as making sure that the district stays out of mediation in regards to custody and guardianship and things of that nature. A motion's been made for recommendation with me seconding it. Do you have any discussion? You're on mute. Mr. Reagan. Okay, I don't think he can hear me.
Say that again.
Okay, so do you have any discussion? Discussion? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
There's something wrong with it because I couldn't hear you guys a few moments ago. It was a lot of feedback on it. So I don't know. Can they hear you now? Because I don't hear none of them.
Okay, it's just me talking. I can hear you. We were going to discuss, we made a motion, and the motion had to do with staying out of the Perla. Can you please?
Yes. That you move that. Are you asking me to restate the motion?
No. Okay. So the Vice President Reagan, the motion is for the recommendation that deals with the policy, with the revisions made in the policy regarding custody and just making sure that we stay at a mediation of custody and guardianship, and also ensuring that the proper documentation is available for students that come into that are enrolled into our program.
Okay, I got you. I got it.
So,
And it also provides ages, specific age ranges for students to be enrolled in the district. 5 through 21 for students in regular programs, and then for special education programs, 3 to 21.
You mean I could have stayed till I was 21? Man.
yeah, you could have.
That haven't met graduation requirements.
All right. I got you, Chair Tree. I mean, Director Watry.
Good. Okay. So with that, I'll call it to roll. President Briggs. President Briggs, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. On you for the motion.
I made the motion. Did someone second it?
Yeah, I seconded it. So I'm calling to vote.
Aye.
Okay. Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. Moving along.
All right, the next three policies, JFCL, and then the administrative procedures for JFCL, all deal with the A+ program, and they're modified to incorporate a student's ability to use A+ funds for college credit courses taken still while in high school. The MSBA also incorporated changes to the state regulations that govern the A+ program, and the law that requires students to sign a participation agreement if you're participating in the A+ program.
Okay, I think this is a wonderful revision.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see that policy. I can't see it.
It's coming up.
Okay, you see it now?
No.
It's JFCL, JFCL AP1, and then JFCL AF1.
I move that we accept the revisions to the two policies attached.
I second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All right. With your silence, I'll call it to vote. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Okay. The next one is GHG, which is reporting and investigating child abuse and neglect. The policy's been modified to clarify those school-related personnel who are mandated reporters, including school board members. Also, the new law states that vendors and volunteers may be investigated for child abuse, even if the abuse occurred off district property, if they developed a relationship with a student through the school.
Excellent. Excellent.
Tired
Yeah.
of damn perverts.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that's right. I seconded that.
So chair seeking a motion then, since comments.
I move that we accept the policy. Where's it at? JHG.
I seconded for JHG.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next policy.
Okay. The next one is JO and JOAP1, both which deal with student records. One's a policy, one's the administrative procedure.
I apologize. I need 3 minutes to kind of find a charger real quick because I'm at like 0.1%.
Okay, go ahead.
Vice President Reagan and Chair Direct Watry, give me 3 minutes, please.
You got it.
You got it.
Thank
Got it. You gonna give us, so we're gonna stop for a minute?
I mean, we
you. Go
can.
ahead and proceed. No, go ahead and proceed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So these policy changes are to reflect the impact of the law on the confidentiality of student records. MSBA also removed place of birth from the definition of directory information, as they could find no practical reason why districts should need to release this information. And I'm sure that the place of birth removal deals with the desire to protect information about individuals who weren't born in the United States that may be undocumented. And the other changes, let's see here, are just designed to tighten up, essentially, the confidentiality information, making sure that student information is confidential. And so I don't recall that there was anything that was controversial in this. Let me just take a quick look while we're waiting on President Briggs anyway.
So basically, anytime someone steps in, being a volunteer or anything, Attorney Johnson, from now on, there's no waivers. We're not waiving if you got it back in 1900s. If you have something on that record that has something to do with any type of crime, is this basically what it's saying from now on?
So we're talking about the policy before, the one
Yes,
you guys
ma'am.
voted on?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't ask that question then. I'm sorry. I just thought about it when I was looking at this one.
Correct. Ask your question again. I'm sorry, because I was looking at something else. Say it again. I'm sorry.
So basically, I know that some people have the decision to look at the crime and the punishment to make sure if it fits. And, you know, when sometimes people come to your district, they can look at it and say, oh, well, maybe this might not fit, or that was a long time ago. So basically, and there's no more discretion from anybody if something is on a person's record that maintains to a certain thing, since they're around children at all times. From now on, there's nothing that can, you know, basically waive that. That's what I'm asking.
So relative to abuse and neglect allegations, you know, what it's basically saying is that vendors and volunteers can also be investigated for child abuse, even if the abuse didn't occur on district property. If that volunteer developed a relationship with the student while on district property and the abuse happened somewhere else, they can be investigated for child neglect and abuse. That's what that previous policy does, and it also clarifies who are considered mandatory reporters.
Thank you.
And the policy that we're on, like I said, is designed to just kind of clean up, really, more than anything, the confidential information. I'm scrolling through it and I didn't see anything in there that is controversial.
Can we see the one you looking at? Because I don't see that one.
The district.
Yeah, that's Miss Payton. I'm looking at JO, AP1, and I think JO may be attached to it as well. No, it's not. I was looking at JO AP1, but I was trying to find JO. There it is. So on policy JO, and that's probably the easier one to look at because that's the actual policy as opposed to the administrative procedure. It limits volunteer access to student records unless the volunteer has completed the criminal background check that we already talked about, is required for all district employees. And it makes clear that the district will retain all student records in accordance with applicable federal and state law, as well as the current revision of the Missouri Secretary of State's public school records retention schedule, and the general retention schedule. Again, the language about redisclosing information has always been a part of the policy. I think what they're doing is just trying to, actually it was part of the administrative procedure, so now they've moved that language to the policy that basically says that limited directory information, a person who's requesting it will not redisclose it without prior written consent of the parent. That is language that's typically in any agreement that we currently have that involves disclosure of student information. When parents sign that release, they recognize that that information is not going to be redisclosed to another entity. And it was in the administrative procedure. They just now moved it over to the policy. They put in language that addresses unless the court order protection. Yes, I'm sorry. Were you asking me something?
No, I was telling my daughter to call.
Oh, okay. So again, I didn't see anything in here that seemed controversial. It really was designed to kind of just clean up their definitions with regard to confidential information.
All right, well, chair seeking a motion.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is to accept the MSBE for policy JO and JOAP1, both in JOAP2 and JOAF9.
We didn't talk about those last two. We just talked about JO and JOAP1. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I saw you highlighting them for me, so I'm sorry. Thank you. So I would like to withdraw that motion since it has not been accepted and state the motion. I ask that the policy committee, Mr. Chairman, accept policy JO student records and policy JOAP1 student records, both of those.
I second.
Okay, and Ms. Payton, that's for recommendation for a first reading of the board. We just want to make sure that the motion is understood. So with that, is there?
Do I need to state that? Do I need to withdraw it then?
No, you're good. I think you're good. I think I just want to make sure that she is recording it as that. It's accepted by us, but it's all, the exception is the recommendation that it goes to the board.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? All right. President Briggs?
Aye.
Vice President Reagan?
Aye.
Motion, chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right, moving along.
Okay, JOAP2 is new. It's a new procedure that provides a detailed guide on how to respond to requests for video records held by the district. This is good, and because it just makes very plain, what under the sunshine laws, how and under what circumstances districts are required to disclose video.
That better? Okay. All right. Well,
And it may be, that may be one that if you guys want to take some time and read it and ask me if you have questions. I'm not sure that, because it's not something that's a change, it's a whole new policy. I didn't see anything in there that was a problem, but if it may be helpful for you all to decide that, you might want to review that one.
well, I mean, we're our exception is if we were to make a motion, be with the recommendation that it gets reviewed for a first reading with the board. So,
and that's true.
So it'll get read.
Okay.
But I'll leave that to the discretion of my colleagues. But the chair is seeking a motion. No motion?
Sorry, I was muted. I move that we accept JOAP2 to be tabled for additional discussion and brought to the full board.
I second it, but we don't have to table it. We could just say, we're gonna bring it to the full board, y'all, remember?
Okay, what we say, Vice President?
I appreciate you, President.
It's up to you, President Briggs, whether you wish to change your motion or amend it for it to be tabled or not. So
I believe I heard the attorney say that we need to probably spend some time discussing this one.
okay. So Vice President Reagan, her motion is not to remove the table. Is that still your second?
Right, but what I'm saying is, remember when we went to the thing, we don't have to table nothing. If we want to bring it to our whole board, all we have to do is say, Mr. Chairman, we want to bring it to the whole board and just keep it going like that.
Right. And by her motion, it would state like we would table it to our next meeting, not bring
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, not bring it to the, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to say that. We could just say, we'll just do it to our next meeting then. I second that.
No, let me clear it up. Let me withdraw my motion to table it and bring it to the full board. And my motion, when is our next policy meeting? What day?
The date of our next policy meeting is the 1st. Let me see if I can get it before Ms. Payton.
Should be May something.
It's May 5th.
Come on.
I move that we move policy JOAP2 to the next policy meeting for further discussion, and then after that brought to the full board.
I second that.
All right. Motion's been second. So is there any further discussion? I don't think so. All right. President Briggs.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. Okay.
And then the last thing on the list of policies is JOAF9, which is actually a form, student records. And this is something that allows, we often contract with vendors to provide student services. And this form can be used to prohibit those vendors from redisclosing student information they receive in the course of providing their services. Helpful. It's something that we always deal with in agreements, whether or not the individual that we're contracting with to provide services that has access to our student information in the course of providing their services, just ensuring that they don't redisclose. That's often in the MOUs, but this form it's helpful. There's nothing wrong with using it. And it would be something that I don't see any problem with approving. And then, Dr. Skinner and Student Services can use it as they find it necessary.
All right then. That
Chair,
sounds like a winner. So I make a motion, Chair, to accept policy JOAFP. It must be a
AF9.
recommendation.
AF9.
I don't see A.
It's
No, JO-AF9.
Oh, JO-AF9, MSBA recommendation. That we accept.
Second JOAF9.
All right. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? The answer is no. Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0. All right. That's the plethora of MSBA policy revisions on our agenda. I think we can move to future items from our discussion items.
and before you do that, Director Watry, Ms. Payton, as soon as you have the minutes for this, if you could shoot those over to me, because I didn't take notes throughout all of this in terms of what I need to do. So I'm going to rely on your notes to tell me who I need to contact. Thank you.
Okay, so
And it is those notes where we will clarify as well which of the items are going to the full board, which are going to the finance committee, and which are going back to the policy committee. So I'll get those out within the next 48 hours.
Thank you so much.
take your time, Ms. Payton.
No, I gotta get ready for the board meeting next week. I gotta get it done.
So moving on to 5.0 future items. I believe Ms. Johnson and I were able to discuss some of the things that we'd like to future items to go to the full board, but more or less future items that will come to policy to discuss. I know that we currently, and these don't necessarily require a motion, but rather just more or less something to ensure that this committee has attention to it. That the Education Accountability Meeting will be reviewing the revisions made to the student handbook while also reviewing policies that are tied to it. More specifically, the policies that are centered around student discipline, as the policy and the handbook are hand in hand. So revisions made to the handbook will also be made. So that will be discussed in the accountability committee meeting, which takes place. Let me get the date on that.
They are April 13th.
I'll be trying to find it before you do. With that, I think, does anyone else have any other, Carla, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. I think the only thing that you were wanting to cover on this meeting were those MSBA policies.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, I want to kind of go through our future meeting dates. Facilities committee meeting is April 9th, 2020 at 5:30. A Zoom call will be put out for that. I'm assuming that we're being the fact that we are all still practicing social distancing. Education Accountability Committee meeting is April 13th, stated by Ms. Payton, 2020 at 5 p.m. Finance Committee meeting is April 14th, 2020 at 5:30. Regular session board meeting is April 16th, 2020 at 6:30. And again, this policy committee meeting will reconvene May 5th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we adjourn?
No, I'm good, Chair Watry. This has been a very great meeting. Thank you for your facilitation. Thank you, Ms. Payton, for your recap, and thank you, Phil Johnson, for your work on policies, and thank you, Vice President Reagan, for your work as well.
Those community shareholders who decided to chime in and also sit through this meeting, I appreciate it as well.
All right. Thank you for the 2 hours. Well spent, guys.
The time is now 7:12, and I call this meeting to adjourn. Let's see.
All right.